Hi, I'm Callie. I'm the founder and author of 31 Heart Pursuit. And today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and it's women of the Bible and faith. I've got my coffee, even though I have already had most of it. This mug, I love it. It says Walk by Faith, and it has become one of my favorite mugs. I love them all. Most of them are gifts, actually. So I'm going to use the Bible app on my phone just because it's quicker to get to where I need to be as far as the scripture references go. So I'm going to start with the verse. Yeah, I'll start with the verse that has really been making me want to talk about faith. And it starts in Hebrews 11, verse 1. And it's typically called the Hall of Faith. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. That is Hebrews 11, verse 1. Now, I'm going to go. You might be thinking, what does that have to do with faith? But I'll get there. Okay. So, Matthew chapter 1, and if you're familiar with the Bible, that is actually the genealogy of Jesus Christ. And it's beautiful. The book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Now, forgive me if I butcher these names. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, and Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, who was a woman. And Perez the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Ram, and Ram the father of Amminadab, and Amminadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of David the king. And David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah. Now I want to stop there because I find it so interesting how three women who were not Israelites, they were foreign women, were mentioned by name, starting with Tamar, and then Rahab, and Ruth. But you get to an Israelite, and she is not mentioned by name. Now, if you know the story, you know who that woman was. That woman was Bathsheba. But I'm going to talk about those three women. Those three women were foreigners, but God used them in huge ways. God used them to be the lineage, to carry on the lineage of Jesus Christ, even though they were foreigners, which is beautiful. I love it. And it shows God's redemption and his heart and his love for the Gentiles in a time where people didn't think it was possible that God could love the Gentiles. But it shows that he did. So let's first talk about Tamar. Okay. You go to her story, and her story is found in Genesis chapter 38. Okay. And it starts with Judah. Now, Judah is the tribe that the lineage comes from. It starts with Judah. Well, technically Adam, but we'll say Judah for now, for these purposes. Now, you might be confused, like, okay, how Tamar was Judah's daughter-in-law. So you might be confused, thinking, how is that? Well, Judah took Tamar as a wife for his eldest son. He died. So, in that culture, in that time, the brother-in-law was given to the widow as his wife. So he could carry on the namesake for his brother. Okay. She marries his brother, and God kills him because his brother refused to carry on his name. I'm not going to go into detail. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. I'll leave it at that. So Judah was scared for his youngest son's life. So Judah says, when he is old enough to be presented as your husband, I will do that. For now, go as a widow to your father's house, and I will let you know. Tamar had been dressed in widow's garments, and he comes back to a nearby town. She is a foreigner, mind you. And he is going to shear his sheep with a friend. And she thinks, okay, maybe now he'll give me his son to be my husband so I can have a child in the name of my first husband. That didn't happen. She had to trick him into thinking that she was a prostitute in order to have a son for her first husband's namesake. Judah. Good old Judah. He didn't even know it was Tamar because she'd covered her face to look like a temple prostitute. Oh, Judah. When will you learn? So she makes it known that it was her, and she has a child. Foreign woman number 1. Her faith in God was amazing. She followed his laws. She followed his rules. She followed his statutes. Her faith. The next one mentioned was Rahab. For the story of Rahab, you go to Joshua. And chapter 6. And in Joshua chapter 6, she hides the spies. Except it was not in 6 when she hides them. But she hides the spies, and they tell her that they are going to, that God will save her if she puts a scarlet cord outside of her window. And so she is saved, and she marries an Israelite, as was mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus. And her faith is astounding. She didn't grow up hearing about Jesus Christ or the Messiah or God. She didn't grow up hearing about any of that. She grew up hearing about the fear that God put in to the other nations and how God had rescued the Israelites out of Egypt and how they had crossed over the Red Sea. Beautiful. And she knows. She knows that Jericho is going to be given into God's hands for the Israelites, and that the Israelites were going to conquer Jericho. So she wanted to be saved because she knew that God could save her. Second woman mentioned, and she was a prostitute. So not only was she a foreigner, but she's a woman, and she was a prostitute. Next you have Ruth. One of the most famous love stories in the Bible. Ruth and Boaz. Boaz was the son of Rahab. And Boaz was Ruth's kinsman redeemer. Ruth was married to a man whose name literally meant weak. And her mother-in-law was going back to, I believe, Bethlehem in Israel after having gone to Moab in a drought and famine. So you see the story in Ruth, in the book of Ruth, and one of my most favorite things that Ruth says. Naomi tells Ruth, stay with your father's house. I can't have another son for you to marry, and if I did today, are you going to wait for him to grow up? Because that was the culture. You married the brother-in-law of the deceased, or the brother of the deceased husband. So you basically marry your brother-in-law in that day and age. And I love it. I'm going to start in verse 15 of chapter 1 of Ruth. And she said, see, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more so, if anything but death parts me from you. Her faith in God is astounding. And it is amazing what God can do through you if you have trust in His plan, if you have faith in Him. And I'm saying this in one of the darkest times in my life. I've mentioned it on the Facebook page. My brother was recently killed on his motorcycle about a month ago. And so faith is really my source of strength. And faith is really what I have now. My faith and hope. And so for me, I'm really clinging and looking at these women of faith and their strength. The strength Ruth had to leave everything she had known to follow her mother-in-law after her husband had died, to follow her mother-in-law and serve the one true God. Allow God to be your strength. Allow God to lead you to places, to do things you never thought were possible. Put your trust in God, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. It's something I've recently learned. My brother was only 28. So you don't put it off. Put your trust and your faith in God. Serve Him and follow Him. I love you guys. God bless.